before we dive into like the news head first, every generation of Twitch streamers has this exact same issue. Here is Stable Ronaldo calls out the fakeness in the streaming industry, saying people genuinely don't like each other anymore, and he can't figure out the reason. There's plenty of money viewership content. I don't know why this is a thing. This has happened in every single generation of streamers, okay? Every single one. Every single one. I came up with the crop of talent. Like, before my generation, the generation prior to mine was like Ninja, Tfue, Pokimane, right? They all popped off. And then my generation of streamers were like, myself, XQC. I think it was like Nick Merckx as well, kind of. You could put them in there. Who else? Mizkif, that was another one. Ludwig, right? Cutie Cinderella. Like, this was our gen of content creators. And if you notice, like, there's a lot of drama in that gen. Like, there's a lot of people who have actively fought one another and don't fuck with each other at all any longer. And now this generation after us is like Aiden, Speed, Kai, and then I guess like the second version of that has been like the Phase Boys as well, if you want to loop all of them under the same umbrella. And there are always content creators in this space that just kind of do their own thing. Lyric is a great example of this, right? Moon, Lyric, like there are always content creators that like kind of do their own thing, right? But there's also content creators who collaborate with one another. Like, I would say Keizo is like this new generation's version of like Lyric, right? Keizo just does his own thing. He like collabs with people every now and then, but he just like stays out of everything. He stays out of trouble. He stays out of drama. He's great. And basically, I mean, he's been doing his own thing. He's popping off. Whereas like a lot of these other guys, they collaborate with one another, myself included, right? And ultimately, from my personal experience, what I've seen that has taken place is that when money gets involved, when there's too much money to be made, when there's too much clout, okay, I think ultimately people find themselves fighting over one another and like fighting for like the seat at the top, I guess. It becomes like very transactional. Relationships become very transactional because like before 2020, a lot of content creators were just like friends with one another, like legitimately friends with one another, right? In my generation of content creators, like the top dogs, we were all friends with one another. We like legitimately hung out with one another, Trainwrecks, XQC, even Asmongold from time to time. And it wasn't like a thing. It wasn't a big ordeal to just like collaborate with someone, right? And at the time, their opinions weren't the way that they are. So when you say like ew, you're reflecting on that with like today's opinion. You're reflecting on what these guys look like now or what these guys say now, but it wasn't like that back then. They just weren't like that at all. And I think throughout time, I feel like those collaborations became like more serious, more professional. Like there was an expectation, a tit for tat. It became way more transactional, right? And people got segmented. I think like the big nuclear bomb in terms of like my generation, like no longer collaborating with one another and no longer having a sense of community with one another, I would say was like during COVID, XQC's mistreatment of other content creators kind of started this drama a little bit because he would just like treat every content creator like a NPC. And because he was rewarded tremendously for that, no one really said anything about it. And a lot of people just like kind of let it happen. It wasn't even just GTRP. It was like Among Us, GTRP, No Pixel. Every time there was like a serious collaboration, like that's where it initially started. That's where the fissures initially started. And, there were some people who called him out. I wonder who those people are. And, they got yelled at quite a bit. And I was doing that as a friend too, like at the time, because we were still close. And then after that, it just like kind of kept spiraling over and over again. Then there was the Kick ordeal. A lot of these guys were getting money from a crypto gambling casino online. And, of course, when financial interests come into play, There's also obviously like people that want to protect their bag. And then Kick gets created as a website after stake.com is banned off of Twitch. And in the process, a lot of the people that went over there they had a lot of animosity. They had a lot of anger towards those who didn't. And then I think like the big nuke obviously was the Miskiff train wreck stuff, right? And it just imploded, and no one ever. People became extra cliquey, and no one ever hung out with one another the same way ever again after that. But that was just my gen, right? A long, convoluted, complicated Twitch history. And now I think this is happening for these guys as well a little bit, you know?
I'm the smallest one here. I don't think my take on this is, I actually have a take. Let's start. Oh, should I start starting?
It's very cloud driven. Ludwig talked about how so many creators talked to him after streamer games about not being invited, including Neon. That's so funny to me because like I've been friends with most of the people that were there for literally like the past 6 years. Okay, including all the new talent. I'm pretty friendly with them, and I'm not upset. You know what I mean? Like, who the is someone random getting upset after like never having any relationship whatsoever with these people? I'm not even upset because I understand, like, you know, you have to fund these big initiatives, and some of those companies that fund these big initiatives are obviously going to be companies that work with the state of Israel and are not too fond of my commentary on that same state of Israel, or even actively fund Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill. So that's so funny that like people get mad. They really hated you for being the face of getting stake banned off Twitch. Yeah.
Myself into this a little bit. I don't actually think streamers have egos. I think streamers just don't like each other. Simple as that. And it's not based off egos. It's just based off they just don't like each other. And people fake friendships. And put question marks all you want. I'm going to be honest. I just don't think people like each other. I don't really know why. I think there's plenty of money for everyone. There's plenty of viewers.
This is the healthy attitude to have on this, for the record. I do think there's a lot of ego involved as well. But I think there's a lot of clout. There's a lot of ego. There's a lot of money. There's financial interest involved as well. And once like money... In my experience, what I have realized is once money is a part of this process, and people get driven by that financial imperative, as opposed to just like taking taking whatever money you're making and like being excited at the prospect, being excited at how fortunate we are to even be at this position, instead of just like actively just like hanging out with friends and trying to make people trying to entertain people. It turns into this like transactional relationship. Like who can I do this with? Who can I get clout off of? That kind of thing. I can't imagine having to pretend to like my coworkers to make more money. I am fortunate enough to have never had to do any of that. You act like it's not a job. I mean, it is a job, but it's also not a job, if you know what I mean. It's not like a real job, especially for like a lot of content creators. What kind of... Like, look, I log in every day. I clock in. I'm doing news commentary for like, 10 hours. Not 10 hours, but like 8 hours, right? A lot of these guys are just hanging out. They're playing golf. They're rizzing girls up. You know what I mean? Like, it's a job in the sense of like it's still supposed to be entertaining. You're supposed to be doing okay, people are saying 6 hours. Chatters. Jesus Christ. Like, for a lot of these guys, they're just like having fun and filming themselves in the process of having fun and making a lot of money. And it's amazing. And I say this as someone who thinks my position, which is definitely a little bit more serialized and a little bit more serious than what these guys are doing, as an unimaginably immensely fortunate, immensely privileged position to begin with as well.